Hey everyone, welcome back to the Justice for Aaron Brady campaign. Firstly, let's have a little look at this clip once again, just to remind ourselves and refresh our memories of what it is we are dealing with here. Here we go.
Okay, good morning, Anthony. Mark Phillips is my name. I'm the Detective Sergeant with the Irish Garda, the police in Ireland, yeah. And we've met here today, and you have agreed to meet us, and that you look to speak to us today in relation to an incident that happened to you on St. Patrick's Day. And you agreed to make a statement in that matter, and we have recorded that statement in writing. We're going to read it back over to you, and if there's anything that's not correct, if we have recorded it, that you want to clarify, change, if you want to alter anything, you can feel free to do that, and we'll make a note of it there. We'll ask you to sign it at the end, okay? And we're just recording the read back of the interview on this camera here. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so we have statement of Anthony Gerard Maguire.
So those of you that are following Aaron's campaign are fully aware that we're dealing with the read back of a statement taken from Anthony Gerard Maguire by Detective Mark Phillips and Detective Jim McGovern. We're obviously highlighting the fact that this man is under duress. An email he sent via his lawyer to the Irish authorities tells us this, that he was put under duress by Garda Síochána and he didn't want to have anything more to do with the Aaron Brady case. But to highlight and show exactly what Mark Phillips is capable of, and this, what we have just seen, his interactions with Anthony Gerard Maguire are not standalone, they're not unusual. In fact, it is commonplace for Mark Phillips to be coercing and leading people who he believes to be vulnerable, and in this case a criminal and a drug dealer, to make false statements against Aaron. So to highlight exactly what Mark Phillips is capable of, let's have a little look at this clip from Jem O'Doherty's interview with Thomas O'Callaghan.
20 to 7 in the morning, going to work. Between 13 to 15 armed men arrested me. And I just couldn't believe why. I was illegal. I was there almost 17 years. Took me down to a building in the city, an FBI building, I believe. And then this is when the Cascade guy came. He was Homeland Security. And he kept saying, I know all about you. I know where you're from. I know who your mates are, all this. I was like, what does that mean? Like, what are you trying to imply here? I says, I don't understand. Right, he says, would you be interested in talking to two guys who came along with you to speak to you?
The name of the Garda who was involved in your arrest is?
Phillips, Mark Phillips. I was asked to say this about the two Flynn brothers, Eugene and Jimmy. These guys had absolutely nothing to do with this. Like, it's just a complete stitch up. Just trying to put words in my mouth. The whole story is that Phillips made me say is what convicted Aaron Brady. I've never even met Aaron Brady. I don't even know him.
This is the individual who this week and last week was back in court trying to destroy Aaron's chances of a fair appeal.
And he said it then. Here, say it and we'll get you a green card. Just say this and we'll get you a green card. There was no tape recording. There was no video recording. Then I seen Cascade again, and I said to Cascade, and I says, here, until I guess, I says, no wonder 9/11 was allowed to happen. I says, this is fucking bullshit. And he couldn't even look at me. Phillips gave me both numbers, like, and says, here, if you change your mind, I says, boys, you know there's no fucking mind to change. I'm the only one telling the truth here. He was trying to put words into my mouth. This went on for hours. And basically said, look, we can get you help, we can get you a green card, you can be out of here tonight and all this, and just kept going over and on and on and on. And at the end up then he says, look, just say this, we'll get you a green card. Just say that they said that they meditated in a bar, drinking over their pint one night. And that was it. And I says, nah. I honestly didn't think they were capable of that, but I've now since come to show that the lead witness, that's what he got, like, was a green card for saying such line, the exact same line.
Daniel Cahill.
So there we have it. Most of you will have seen that before. We will put the link to the full interview for those who haven't seen that. I know it is quite shocking if you haven't seen it before, but this is quite plain and simple what this man here, Mark Phillips, does in the course of his work. He bribes, coerces and bullies people into giving false statements to frame people. So we've seen there with Thomas, he had 17 years, a good life in Boston, created his own business, and he refused to tell lies and he was deported. But the interesting thing is here that we must highlight, we know with Matt Flaherty, the man that was caught with a large amount of prescription drugs and cocaine, also in Boston, he was threatened with going to jail for 25 years. So that was in relation, obviously, as well as Aaron, to the Flynn brothers. And in this case here, with Thomas O'Callaghan, you've just seen Mark Phillips just tell him out straight, we want the Flynn brothers, just say they said this at a bar. So the interesting thing is here, James Flynn has been acquitted, quite clearly been acquitted of being involved in the modern robbery at Ulster Credit Union on the 25th of January 2013. And hopefully, we are very hopeful that following his appeal in recent days, Jimmy will be totally exonerated and the case will be thrown out and Jimmy will be acquitted. So we're hoping for that, and it highlights what Mark Phillips is capable of. We know James Flynn had nothing to do with the modern robbery at Ulster Credit Union, and here's Mark Phillips trying to coerce a young man into telling lies and giving a statement against the Flynns. So this isn't all that Mark Phillips has done. Let's have a look at another little clip, which is very, very interesting. Clip number 2, when the witness gets his lines wrong and Mr. Phillips is not happy.
My cousin was with him. Yeah, car. He said it was BMW, you know. The car was a BMW. Well, just I think just cast your mind back to try and recall what he said in relation to the car. I said, what was it? And he said it was. I said, what sort of car was it? And he said it was like I don't know. Well, I think he said BMW.
So there we have. And in this clip, we see where Mark Phillips is leading the witness. Now, this is Ronan Flynn, another drug dealer, and another man who had an extradition warrant disappear to give a false statement against Aaron. And we can see here how Mark Phillips gets somewhat upset when Ronan gets his lines wrong. So Ronan's supposed to say Jimmy and Aaron stole a Passat, and Ronan is saying Jimmy and Aaron stole a BMW. Yeah, they said it was a BMW. And Mark Phillips says, stop now. Just think about exactly what he said. So it's there in black and white. And when we go into Ronan Flynn's full interview and the whole details of his interview, you will see quite clearly through the whole process, because Ronan makes so many mistakes, we can see where Phillips has to lead him and point him in the right direction for the coerced statement that was pre-rehearsed and predetermined before Ronan was taken into the interview room. And again, just to latch on to what Thomas O'Callaghan said, he talks about Agent Katsky, and obviously we know Anthony Maguire and Christopher Morton, the two first cousins, are obviously linked through Matt Katsky as well. But I just want to show you here, this is a text message sent by Ronan Flynn to his cousin. Now, this is Ronan Flynn's attempt to get another young lad here in Ireland to give a false statement against the Flynns and possibly Aaron. And this is the phone number Ronan Flynn sends to his cousin. And that phone, you can see in the top of it there, HLS, Homeland Security. But here is Matt Katsky's card. And if you see the two phone numbers there we go. So Ronan Flynn, when we see his full interview, and we show all the text messages we have from Ronan Flynn to his cousin and his attempt to get his cousin to tell lies against the Flynns and against Aaron, we'll see where Ronan Flynn tells us quite clearly that Matt Katsky got his sister a 10-year visa. So all this is quite clear, and this is all on the back and being orchestrated by this man here, Detective Mark Phillips. So that's all fairly straightforward. So let's see Mark Phillips in action here once again. Now this is an affidavit created by Aaron's initial first solicitor, Neil Manley, and he's seeking information in respect of the interactions with An Garda Síochána with these criminals, or as they call them, witnesses in America, New York and Boston. So we're going to look at Mark Phillips' own words, his interactions with Anthony Gerard Maguire. There's just 2 brief pages here. And the way we're going to work this is we'll just do 1 page at a time. So that's the first page there. And we're going to bring up the first paragraph. So this is just to outline where we're going with this. This document deals with a witness who was interviewed by members of the Garda investigation team in relation to the investigation into the murder of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue, which occurred at Lordship, County Louth on 25th of January 2013. This document will set out interaction between the witness and members of the Garda investigation team, and also interaction between the witness and members of the United States Department Homeland Security investigations, where this information is available to the writer. This document will also set out the status of the witness in the United States at the time of their interaction with the members of the Garda investigation team. We've covered that in the previous video, Anthony Gerard Maguire's status. He was on the run. There was an extradition warrant for him for his drugs, ammunition, and drug dealing paraphernalia in Northern Ireland, from which he absconded. So we're going to move on to the next paragraph here, and this is the interactions between Mark Phillips and Anthony Gerard Maguire. There's a number of them, and we just go through them because there's some very important information in these paragraphs. Anthony Maguire. On the 30th of November 2017, Christopher Morton informed members of Homeland Security investigations that his cousin, Anthony Maguire, was in possession of information regarding the murder of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue. During previous interviews with Christopher Morton, he had indicated to members from the Garda investigation team that he knew the identity of a person with information regarding the murder of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue, but that he did not wish to disclose the identity of that person to the Gardaí at the time. Now, this is referring back to Pat Marry, when Pat, as you can see from the date here, is the 30th of November 2017. Marry interviewed Morton in May 2017. Morton did tell Marry that his cousin would give evidence, but he would give evidence that Anthony Gerard Maguire would give evidence that he was in the Tombstone bar after the wedding. But Maguire got cold feet, didn't deal with Pat Marry. Mark Phillips found out about Anthony Gerard Maguire, obviously done some digging on him, found drugs, ammunition charges down in Northern Ireland, seen quite conveniently that 3 shots had been fired into his house and his car after he absconded. So obviously this was ripe pickings for Mark Phillips. Ripe pickings. On the 30th of November 2017, Homeland Security investigations called to the home of Anthony Maguire. They asked Anthony if he would be willing to speak with members of the Garda investigation team who were in New York at the time of conducting inquiries into the murder of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue. Anthony Maguire advised that he would speak to the Gardaí and asked that they call to his home the next morning. Unusual sort of scenario there. It's difficult to understand why it wasn't dealt with immediately, but notwithstanding that, we don't have that information and we're not privy to that information, but it's something that during the course, hopefully, of private cases against these people, we can delve into it in more detail. So obviously on the following morning, on the 1st of December 2017, so this is the video we have released of the read back. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with here. On the 1st of December 2017, members from An Garda Síochána team, Inspector Mark Phillips and Detective Jim McGovern, met with Anthony Maguire at his home in New York. Anthony Maguire made a statement on this date. This interview was not recorded on camera, however. The statement, once completed, was read over to Anthony Maguire on camera. Again, we're not sure of the reason for that. Obviously, proper protocol would suggest that the taking of the statement be videoed. But obviously that didn't happen. On December the 1st, a second statement was recorded by Inspector Phillips and Detective Jim McCombs from Anthony Maguire relating to a photograph taken of an injury to his eye, which was referred to by him in his first statement. So we have shown you that second statement in the back of an SUV, where Anthony Gerard Maguire shows obviously the scar over his eye, which was caused by Aaron Brady, but we will be going into that in much more detail. And Anthony Gerard Maguire's version of what happened to his eye is very far removed from the truth, but we will bring you the truth. So we move on then to, on the 23rd of January 2018, Inspector Mark Phillips and Detective Garda Jim McGovern met with Anthony Maguire at his home. The purpose for this visit was to continue inquiries with Mr. Maguire. Contact to arrange the visit was made with Mr. Maguire by Homeland Security Investigations. So this is where we have Katsky and Marianne Wade involved here again. So Homeland Security are obviously involved. Mark Phillips is telling us here. And Homeland Security are fully aware that this man, Anthony Gerard Maguire, is wanted for very serious drugs offences and ammunition possession in Northern Ireland. Anthony Maguire was not in a position to provide a statement to the Gardaí, but agreed to meet on the 26th of January 2018 for this purpose. Anthony Maguire also provided details in relation to an inquiry conducted with the Police Service of Northern Ireland, which he had asked about on the previous meeting. Now, again, very important that we acknowledge this is the first mention of the PSNI and what we have been speaking to you about, Maguire's criminal record here in Northern Ireland. Now, we would heavily suggest that Maguire, when he was contacted by Katsky and Wade, it says there, Anthony Maguire also provided with details in relation to an inquiry conducted with the Police Service of Northern Ireland. So Maguire saying, if I give this evidence, if I give this false statement, he is going to let me off. He is going to let me stay in America. Don't send me home to where I'm possibly going to get shot because I now have a £60,000 debt. And people have fired shots into my car or my house where my family lived. So please don't send me home. So that's what we're suggesting that conversation was. If we're wrong, we're more than willing to speak with Mark Phillips about it, or anyone in the PSNI, or anyone in Homeland Security. But them few lines there tell us drug dealer in Northern Ireland, deal done with him in New York, to tell lies, to frame an innocent man for the murder of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue. So we move on then to the 26th of January when on the arranged date. A third statement was taken from Anthony Gerard Maguire in New York by Detective Jim McGovern and Inspector Mark Phillips. Anthony Maguire was working at the time and the interview took place in the back of a vehicle. It was not recorded on DVD. So we're not 100% sure what occurred in the back of a vehicle. So for 1 second, do you believe Anthony Gerard Maguire is a willing participant in this sham? If Anthony Gerard Maguire was, as described by Brendan Graham, an upstanding citizen who was coming forward to help Caroline Donoghue and her children and to aid in the finding of Adrian Donoghue's murderer, would they have to call to his work and pull him out into a jeep, into the back of a jeep? It's there in black and white. We can see clearly what's happening. And I must stress, I cannot stress enough, we have so little information about these interactions, the preparations, the length of time that took place, who orchestrated it, what Homeland Security agent was there, was there an immigration removals officer there, was the drug squad there, was Anthony Gerard Maguire, was he swabbed? Because we would suggest it is very possible Anthony Gerard Maguire was still involved in drugs with his cousin Christopher Morton in New York in the bar scene. We suggest that very strongly, that is very, very possible. So we move on. On the 17th of May 2018, Inspector Mark Phillips and Detective Jim McGovern met with Anthony Maguire at his home. Further details regarding the PSN, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, were discussed. So Phillips has gone off, spoken to the PSNI and come back with the deal. And that was on the 17th of May 2018. Bang, the deal's done. You're okay, Anthony. You're staying in America. We're not sending you home where your life is in danger. So let's move on with these false statements against Aaron Brady. So on the 3rd of July, this is the last bit of it now. On the 3rd of July 2018, Inspector Mark Phillips and Detective Jim McGovern met with Anthony Maguire. Further details provided in relation to the Police Service of Northern Ireland also served a witness order on Anthony Gerard Maguire. Excuse me. So more discussions on the deals done with the PSNI, getting rid of the, well, they didn't get rid of this one. They parked it, but we'll deal with that in further videos. The deals with the PSNI and Homeland Security and on Garda Síochána, Anthony Gerard Maguire was ironed out. And Anthony Gerard Maguire was served with a witness order. So Anthony Gerard Maguire was firmly ensconced as a witness in the trial of Aaron Brady. And all these interactions we have seen here weren't done for fun. Phillips and McGovern were determined to get this drug dealer just to say the words. Aaron Brady said something to me at a bar on St. Patrick's Day when I wasn't drinking. So this is Inspector Phillips' statement. This is Inspector Phillips himself. Inspector Phillips can advise that all meetings between Anthony Maguire and members of the Garda investigation team and Homeland Security investigations were voluntary and consensual. In the back of an SUV on a number of occasions, pulled off the street, and we've watched the videos, folks. You, the Irish public, have seen the videos. Does Anthony Gerard Maguire look comfortable with Mark Phillips? Listen to the way Mark Phillips speaks to him. He speaks to him like a dog. So this is more lies from Mark Phillips, and this is a signed affidavit by him. Anthony Maguire was not arrested or detained by any US law enforcement agent during the interviews. Why not? There was an extradition warrant for him. He's a drug dealer in Northern Ireland, caught with ammunition. Is he linked to paramilitaries? Is he linked to drug gangs? So if he wasn't arrested, why wasn't he arrested? This is the information we want. This, and I'm sure the Irish public, do you not believe, anyone watching this video, do you believe Aaron Brady should have access to all the information in respect of these interactions? Of course he should. In any decent, law-abiding society, most certainly, Aaron should have all this paperwork. We don't. There's little bits of pieces, little lanes that the prosecution made mistakes in and just led us to little clinks of light that were very promptly closed down, and bland statements made like this by Mark Phillips. I'll repeat it again. Anthony Maguire was not arrested or detained by the US law enforcement agency during the interviews. Then he told us the same about Daniel Cahill. And Daniel Cahill was taken out of an attic after allegedly hiding there for 6 hours and taken to a police station. If that's not detained or arrested, what is it? You're a liar, Mark Phillips. Members from Homeland Security investigations accompanied members of the Garda investigation team at all meetings with Anthony Gerard Maguire. I understand that Anthony Maguire has status to reside in the United States. He is married to a United States citizen. I understand that Anthony Maguire has status to reside in the United States. He is married to a United States citizen. He most certainly is not entitled to stay in the United States of America. He most certainly is not entitled to reside in the United States of America. He's a fucking drug dealer. He abandoned his partner and his child. He was willing to tell lies against Aaron Brady. Now, in his defence, we can put a defence for him. When we go into a future video, you'll see that he did send an email saying that he was put under duress by members of Garda Síochána to make his statements against Aaron Brady. And he didn't want to have anything more to do with the Aaron Brady case. You can still stand up Anthony Gerard Maguire. You can still stand up Christopher Morton. Tell the truth. Because if we're telling the truth, you have to be held accountable, and you will be held accountable in a court of law, whether it be in the United States of America or subpoenaed to Northern Ireland. That will happen. If we are telling lies or any of the inference we are drawing from this document written by Mark Phillips is incorrect, sue us. Send us a solicitor's letter. Send us information that shows what you are saying is correct. And finally, at the bottom, you can see signed Mark Phillips, Inspector. So I think all that is fairly straightforward. This man here is pure evil. You've seen what he done. We've been told he done with Thomas O'Callaghan. We've seen what he done with Ronan Flynn. We know he was involved with Daniel Cahill. We know he was at the back of the court speaking to Molly Staunton on a phone, either speaking to Molly Staunton or Seamus, when Molly Staunton was being attacked, giving evidence against Aaron Brady. Phillips was involved in all this. I think I have it here. I actually have some tape on this, but he gave a statement. Oh yes, I have it here. He gave a statement in the CCJ in Dublin, 15th of April 24, from 11:10 a.m. to 12:45. Pure lies, all related to Ronan Flynn and Ronan Flynn's family. But all that will be highlighted when Ronan Flynn subpoenaed into court. All these people will have to answer the questions. So we have to continue with Anthony Gerard Maguire's statement read back. As I've said, it's quite in depth, but it shows a multitude. It is a perfect replica of the way this investigation was undertaken and the way it was perpetrated by Phillips, McGovern, Pat Marry, Bobby Ogle, Paul Gill, doing deals with drug dealers and paedophiles and illegal immigrants. Doing deals, it's there in black and white, deals done with the PSNI for Anthony Gerard Maguire. So we're going to move on, and I do believe the next video on Anthony Gerard Maguire will be dealing with the cut over his left eye. And we'll show quite clearly that Anthony Gerard Maguire is telling a tissue of lies about that incident also. Please like, comment and share. We keep repeating it. We are being very, very heavily censored, very heavily shadow banned. We need your help to share Aaron's story. So please keep sharing. Don't be affected by the numbers you see. We know these people are messing about with our numbers. So please get Aaron's story out there. And we'll see you very shortly in the next video on Anthony Gerard Maguire's read back of a statement by Detective Mark Phillips.